Have you ever stopped to think that something as simple as a parking spot could decide a city's entire future? It really can. It's the difference between a city that's alive just during the day and one that thrives 24/7. So let's dive into this tale of two urban futures.
Right off the bat, let's look in a totally different way of thinking. This quote about Japan really gets to the core of it. Over there, owning a car is your private responsibility. The idea that you can just store your private property, your car, on valuable public land for free, it's just not a thing. And that one simple principle changes absolutely everything.
And you can really see the result of those two different philosophies right here. On the left, that's Manukau in Auckland, a landscape that's pretty clearly built to accommodate cars. And on the right, you've got a typical street in Japan, a landscape built for people. I mean, the contrast is just so stark, isn't it? Space for cars versus space for people.
Okay, so let's dig into that first model, what we're calling the daylight city, using Manukau as our example. This is a city that's really designed around that 9 to 5 commute. It works, for sure, for cars during business hours. But as we're about to see, that convenience comes with a huge and often invisible price tag.
Just look at this number. In Manukau city center, somewhere between 1/3 and almost half of all the land is used for nothing but surface parking. Just let that sink in for a second. Nearly half of the city's core is just asphalt, sitting there waiting for cars.
So what happens when you give up that much land to parking? Well, you basically tear the fabric of the city apart. Buildings become these urban islands that are completely isolated in a vast sea of parking. It makes walking from, say, a library to a coffee shop totally impractical. So what do? You get back in your car, even if it's just for a 2-minute drive. It creates this vicious cycle of car dependency.
And that brings us to a really crucial idea in economics: opportunity cost. It's pretty simple, actually. Every single square foot of land that's used to store a car is a square foot that is not being used for something else, like homes, or businesses, or parks. It's always a trade-off. So, let's break down that trade-off. What does 1 acre of surface parking actually give a city? The answer is zero. 0 homes, 0 shops, 0 offices. For most of the day and all of the night, it's just dead space. But now, let's flip that. What's the alternative? What could you do with that exact same 1 acre piece of land? Well, if you designed it as a walkable neighborhood, it could support around 40 homes, not to mention shops and green spaces. The choice is literally between 0 homes and 40 homes. That's the real opportunity cost of all that parking. So, okay, let's shift gears and look at the alternative. This is the vision of the night city, or more accurately, the 24-hour city. This is a place that doesn't just lock its doors and turn out the lights at 5 p.m. It's a city that's alive, it's vibrant, it's safe, and it's economically productive around the clock. And why? Because it's built for people.
So how do you actually build that? Well, the goal is to create what you could call a humming destination. It all starts with a simple idea. When people feel safe and comfortable enough to just hang out, a place comes to life. You do this by creating really pleasant, walkable routes from the train station to the local restaurants and cafes. All of a sudden, transit isn't just a way to get from A to B. It's the beginning of a great night out, delivering relaxed customers right to the doorstep of businesses.
And here's the magic. This quote just nails it. You create a humming atmosphere that becomes a magnet, pulling in even more people. It creates this amazing positive feedback loop of social and economic energy. The commute itself becomes a part of the fun.
Okay, so this all sounds great, right? But how do we actually get from that sleepy day city to the vibrant night city? Well, this isn't just wishful thinking. There's actually a clear policy toolkit. This is the nuts and bolts roadmap for making the transformation happen. The biggest single roadblock has been a policy called parking minimums. For decades, cities have basically forced developers to build a certain number of parking spots for any new building, no matter what. It's this rigid, one-size-fits-all rule that creates those seas of parking we saw earlier, whether anyone actually needs them or not. Let's just put these two approaches side by side, because it's pretty stark. The old way forces this massive oversupply of parking and basically subsidizes driving. But the new, market-led approach is all about being flexible. It lets the supply actually match the demand, it frees up land for things we desperately need like housing, and, get this, it actually makes things cheaper for everybody. And this isn't just some academic theory, it's official policy. Auckland has already laid out this tiered strategy. And look, Manukau is designated as Tier 3. That means the official objective is to proactively encourage people to use something other than a car for all trips. The game plan is already there. So let's bring it all back to Manukau, because this big transformation, it isn't just a plan sitting in a binder somewhere. It's actually starting to happen, giving us a real-world look at how a city can build that bridge from day to night.
And this is the vision. This plan shows that shift away from those isolated urban islands we talked about. Instead, you see a connected, green, walkable city. You can literally see how they're using parks and better walkways to stitch the city back together into something that feels like a real place.
And the coolest part is, this is happening now. A program called Innovating Streets is basically a live experiment, putting these people-first ideas to the test, right there on the ground in Manukau. They're using low-cost, temporary changes to see what really works.
So what are they actually doing? Well, a few key things. First, they're trying out one-way streets to calm traffic down. Second, they're creating shared spaces where people feel like they have the priority. Third, they're adding things like public art to make the streets more interesting. And finally, and this is so crucial, they are beefing up the connections to the bus and train stations.
You see, the urban design principle here is brilliant. You get rid of the dead zones, like blank concrete walls and parking lots, and you replace them with active edges. Think cafes with outdoor seating or interesting shop windows. That brings more people out, and more people create natural surveillance, what planners call eyes on the street. And that is one of the single best ways to make a place feel safe. So after looking at these two possible futures, it really all comes down to this one fundamental question. What is a city actually for? Is its main job to be a storage facility for our cars? Or is it to be a place that creates a vibrant, connected, and prosperous community for people? The choice we make, one parking spot at a time, really will define the kind of world we leave behind.